Title Update 3 for Monster Hunter Wilds just released. And I wanted to wait until after Title Update 3 released to make this video, to make sure that I had a good understanding of what Wilds is looking like without a major update coming in 30 days. And good thing I waited, because Title Update 3 brought a Final Fantasy collab, which included Omega and Savage Omega as monsters to hunt, which is decidedly the hardest hunts in Wilds currently. And we'll talk more about this in a minute. I've been playing Wilds since before release. I flew to Seattle to play the demo at PAX West just over a year ago. I played during both open beta weekends leading up to launch. Then Capcom sent me Wilds a few weeks before release to do a review, which you can find a link to in the description if you want to find my initial thoughts of the game compared to now. And since launch, I've played Wilds multiple days per week on live stream, essentially every week. I have hundreds of hours in the game. I've hunted everything and finished multiple big challenges. Savage Omega is the only monster I haven't taken down yet, but that monster just got added to the game, and like I said, that thing's a truck. And over the course of my entire time playing and streaming Wilds, I've been asked many times, is Wilds worth it? Should I get Wilds? And every time I answer, Wilds isn't finished yet. The longer you can wait, the better it's going to be. But now, 7 months later, is this true? Wilds has had a rocky start, to say the least. Even before the game launched during the public beta weekends, the game ran real bad on PC. And I warned people in my review that performance was pretty bad on PC unless your rig was top of the line. And even then, it wasn't guaranteed. Since launch, every update except for the last two have had performance updates for the game. And the game definitely runs better than it did at launch, but there's still big issues. Wilds devs have talked about performance updates likely being added in Title Update 4, which doesn't launch until December 2025, 10 months after the game's release. Is this too long before performance needs to be dealt with? Definitely. Performance has been the Achilles heel for Wilds. It would have been so awesome to see the community's response to the game had the performance of the game made it playable for many PC players. This was the first game in Monster Hunter's franchise to release on all platforms at the same time. It had a Steam concurrent player count of 1.4 million players on launch weekend, which is an insane number, especially for Monster Hunter. The hype around Monster Hunter Wilds was huge leading up to the release, and all it needed was a way to be playable for many PC players. But let's look at Monster Hunter outside of performance to see if it's a great game regardless. Hopefully performance will be taken care of in future updates, but how's the game looking right now, 7 months after release? There have been 3 free title updates since launch, which have added more monsters to the roster, more endgame content, a ton of cosmetics, both free and paid, increased difficulty quests with tougher monsters, balancing of weapons, added new moves of certain weapons, festivals in the Grand Hub, along with mini games and new NPCs, and I'm sure there's lots of things I missed. And I've liked every title update since release. It's been exciting to see what more is coming to the game, and I'm grateful that Capcom does these for free. There's a definite gap between title updates where it seems like you've run out of things to do in the game, but I've never seen Monster Hunter as a live service game that you can play every day for hours a day to enjoy it. So in those gaps, I've picked up other games while playing a little Wilds every week to enjoy hunts with friends and mess with some builds. And the benefit is, if you've waited to purchase Wilds until now or even later, you've got so much more to do in the game than players had at launch. All the updates are free, and they add a lot to the game that wasn't there right away. It makes the experience of finishing Wilds a lot more enjoyable, as you can get it all done at once if you want to, instead of waiting months for the next steps. The additional monsters included in the rosters is one of the main benefits of each title update. We've had high-ranked Zoshia, Mitsuzune, Lagiacrus, Seregios, Omega, and Savage Omega, plus Arch-Tempered Raydao, Uthduna, and new Udras being added in a couple weeks. These new monsters have been an increase in challenge every time. I've enjoyed taking on the increased difficulty and getting more gear to add to my builds to get even stronger builds than before. The latest addition to the roster, Omega and Savage Omega, have been the biggest challenge so far, and I'm so glad it's as tough as it is. At launch, many players were reporting that the game was pretty easy going. The difficulty just wasn't there, me included. And over time, these cries of too easy have died down because of the release of specifically 9-star quests and Savage Omega. Funnily enough, many players now are saying the game is too hard, which only makes me laugh thinking of what we have coming for Master Rank, but that's another video. I've now hunted Omega and Savage Omega for 10 hours, and I've had 2 successful hunts, and they were both against the weaker version. Savage Omega is ripping me a new one, but it feels so dang good. It's by far the most difficult monster in Wilds currently, and this has been so refreshing for the game. There's legitimate strategy, builds, and team comps that need to be thought about in order to take down this raid boss of a monster. And despite literally hours of failing hunts, I'm so excited to get into another and finally succeed in a hunt against this robot. The hunt is tough, but it's so fun. It feels like a bullet hell in Monster Hunter, and I'm somebody who thinks Enter the Gungeon might be the best video game on the planet. So this feeling is sitting right at home for me. I love it. And I believe Savage Omega is going to get easier as time goes on too. We have Arch-Tempered New Udra on the horizon, which will likely have a few gear pieces that will help a lot with Omega damage. Omega right now is insanely hard, and will get easier when more gear options are available, like those from new monsters or Master Rank expansions. Over the course of the title updates, the gear added to the game has been great as well. I'm a big fan of building sets of gear and experimenting with different skills and styles. The Final Fantasy collab has added a couple jobs from Final Fantasy to Wilds, which adds for some fun ways to engage with the game differently. I really enjoy playing Greatsword, and one of the jobs has big benefits to Greatsword players, so I'm excited to do a lot with that. And a few updates ago, Wilds had a collab with Street Fighter, which added Akuma to the game. Akuma isn't just a costume, it's a full weapon. You have a ton of combos and can fully fight monsters with your fists if you're up for it. The collabs in Wilds have honestly been so much bigger and better than I thought they'd be. And outside of monsters and gear, the game has had a bunch of other little things added to add quality of life to players or charm of the game. The Grand Hub is in the game. It's a place for players to meet up and hang out with easy access to hunts and other core parts of Monster Hunter. There's tons of cosmetics, both free and paid, that are available for players who just like to vibe. There's more options for Fashion Hunter with layered armor, both from female and male sets available to use in your character, along with layered weapons. The ability to go from quest to quest easily by using your map and pinning monsters is an awesome addition to the game for those who want to keep hunting and not keep returning to the quest counter. I've done 100 hunts in a row like this and plan to do more because it's just a great time. What don't we have in Wilds that past Monster Hunter games had that are needed for Wilds? I don't think there's much, but there's a couple that I'm thinking of. There's no lure system in Wilds. You must rest at your tent in order to get a random set of monsters to spawn, and I think that's pretty lame. There's a set group of monsters at each region when you pull up the map. Those monsters will leave and show up as the in-game day goes forward, but you may be waiting a long time for your monster of choice to hunt. And sometimes you need a tempered version of a monster to show up in order to get a reasonable drop rate for your gear. Or you might just not want to hunt regular versions of monsters anymore and take on a tougher challenge. Unfortunately, the only way to get tempered monsters really is to rest. All the regular versions of monsters are available as optional quests, but not tempered monsters. You can't just fire up a quest with the hardest difficulty available for each monster in Wilds. You have to rest at camp and hope the dice fall in your favor for what you want. It's pretty silly to waste your time clicking the rest button over and over to play the game. Also, we don't have a proper item farm in Wilds. There's technically a farm in the game through Nada. Nada collects items that you select for him to pick up as in-game days progress. The problem here, though, is that you don't only get the items you're looking for, which makes getting those items slow. And it's even slower because the in-game time doesn't progress on every quest that you do. The quickest way to progress Nada to get your items is, you guessed it, to use the rest button in your tent. It's a really lame way to play Monster Hunter, and even then, Nada doesn't keep up with how many items I'm using. More ways to influence better amounts of items drops from Nada would be great. The alternatives are to rest, which is lame, or to go out on expeditions just to collect items I need, which is not Monster Hunter. That's Item Hunter. I'd like to hunt monsters. There have been other criticisms of Wilds up to this point as well, but I don't think that they're big enough to make a big deal out of them, but I'll bring them up anyways just in case you're curious. There's been a lot of talk around Wilds not having enough friction, things that are tough to do or difficult to obtain that make the game worth playing. In Wilds, we have the opportunity to pin monsters as investigations and play those investigations around 3 times before they're gone. The rewards for those investigations are the same each time. So if you pin a monster with a rare drop, like a mantle or a gem, as an investigation reward, you have a reliable way to get multiple of those, which is very nice compared to the 1% drop rate of some parts from monsters in past games. But now players are annoyed that they can complete a whole build in a fraction of time compared to past games because of this. And I think that this is a fair thing to consider, but what players are missing is where the friction in Wilds actually is. It's not the rare drops like mantles and gems, it's in hunter symbols. Hunter symbols are only found as quest rewards, and you can get a max of 3 of a certain type based on difficulty of quest per quest. And getting 3 is pretty tough. Usually you're getting 1. And many pieces of gear in the game require 5 of these hunter symbols to make per piece of gear. If you multiply this out to the 5 armor pieces, 1 weapon, and a talisman, you're going to need around 15 to 20 hunter symbols for your build, depending on the gear selected. It's kind of amusing to me to see all the banter about lack of friction in the game, as well as all the frustration players are having with running out of hunter symbols. I don't think Wilds has a friction problem. It's actually really awesome to open my quest book and pick which monster I want to get hunter symbols from, instead of being stuck hunting the one monster I really hate hunting to get a specific rare drop I need to make my build. And one more note on that. The friction part has declined a ton since the addition of Lagiacrus, Seregios, and both Omegas. Rare drops from these monsters are super low, and the hunts are quite difficult compared to past updates. There's plenty of friction with the newer updates, though there was plenty before those monsters too, just in different ways. I've also heard that the monster roster for Wilds is too small, and there's not a whole lot to say here. It's the same size as the past few games, but there's more coming. We have to look at Wilds compared to the base games of World and Rise, not compared to their expansions. Wilds is 99% getting a Master Rank expansion in the future. If you want a bigger roster, wait for the expansion and then compare Wilds to Sunbreak and Iceborne. But now isn't the time. But to sympathize with those who want a bigger roster, I want a bigger roster too. I'm not upset with the roster size at all. I know more is coming, but more monster variety is always fun. The solution to this problem is just to wait and not get caught up in the FOMO. You actually get more value out of your time and money by waiting for the game to be fully released than you do to purchase it early and wait for all the updates. Go crush on past Monster Hunter games and come back to Wilds when the expansion is here, and we'll likely all be very happy. So, how is Wilds 7 months later? Well, outside of the performance issues, the game's great. I play it every week because I like it. Nobody's forcing me to play it. I enjoy the game. I have things to work on, tough hunts to get better at, builds to experiment with, and more on the way. The combat is incredible, and it's never felt better. It's my favorite Monster Hunter play since World, and I know the game is going to get even better as we get more updates and Master Rank. Should you buy it? I can't answer that. It depends on what you want out of the game. I would highly consider checking out my buyer's guide if you're looking to purchase it to make sure the game will run on your PC. But outside of that, it depends on what you want out of the game. There's been a ton of criticism of Wilds since launch, even outside of performance issues. And I feel like a lot of this from players who haven't played since launch, likely because they had performance issues, so they don't actually know what the game is like now. Or there's people out there who are just trying to rage bait people into engaging with them on a platform that pays them for engagement for their rage baits. You came to the right place if you want to hear information from somebody who actually plays the game, and somebody who's played the game since before launch even. Feel free to ask questions and I'll happily provide answers as I can. And if you want more real-time answers, you can swing by one of my live streams and ask there. I love to talk with everyone and discuss games.